You see, governments right now are being prepared for this to be a multi-year, multi-decade war. China's peace plan, any sort of verbiage on any sort of peace or coming to terms has been all but squashed in the international media realm because they know it's just not going to happen, and they're not even going to taunt or to flaunt that possibility until you're months or even years away from that becoming a reality.
Peace? No one seems to think it's possible at this point.
The whole world is falling apart and people are starting to realize it.
Indeed, Brad, this is war, and it is indeed world war at this point. And I'm starting to think I better learn Russian.
Your very first 25 words or phrases in Russian so you can start speaking Russian and communicating in it today. Your very first word is привет. Привет, and it means hi.
Niet, just kidding. But at this point, Europe is collapsing by the hour. Even North Korea is trying to get peace.
Well,
it's too early to tell. But I wouldn't say that I'm pessimistic. But from what I feel right now, I do have a feeling that good results would come out.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Let's go.
Hungary has fallen.
Világ népei, az 1000 éves Magyarország őrtornyain kezdenek kihújni az utolsó lángok. A szovjet hadsereg megpróbál szétzúzni bennünket. Páncélosaik és ágyúik Magyarországon dübörögnek át. Asszonyaink, anyáink, leányaink veszélyben vannak. Mentsétek meg lelkeinket! SOS!
Poland has fallen.
Halo, halo? Czy nas słyszycie? To nasz ostatni komunikat. Braterskie pozdrowienie przesyłamy żołnierzom polskim walczącym na Helu i wszystkim walczącym gdziekolwiek się jeszcze znajdują. Jeszcze Polska nie zginęła. Niech żyje Polska!
NATO forces are being overwhelmed. The loss of life is absolutely horrific. NATO's elderly bomber fleets are being decimated, and when they try and attack, the B-1s, the B-2s are spending most of their time between sorties trying to be fixed. They're too complicated, the turnaround time is too long. This is an attrition war, and the numbers simply are no longer on NATO's side. Germany was pounded by air and artillery and tank battalions and has fallen again. Most of Germany is now occupied by Russia. This was after heavy fighting in the cities, and the fighting continues, but there are hundreds of thousands of German civilians dead at this point. News coming out of Germany isn't great, and there's very little of it. Denmark and France braced themselves for the Russian onslaught.
It became apparent that the Netherlands would most likely not be able to stay neutral in a potential new world war. Preparations were therefore made to defend the country. Here we see a train being prepared to become an army hospital train. The Dutch population is informed how to protect themselves against air raids. Important buildings are protected with sandbags. Shelters are dug out for the population to find refuge in case of enemy attacks. The general mobilization was announced by the Dutch government. Women take over the jobs of the recruited men. A food rationing card system is set up. Ships are requisitioned for troop and military goods transport. And the Navy actively patrols the Dutch coast. The Dutch forces are on full alert.
They too fall in a few weeks.
For 5 days, the ill-equipped and undermanned Dutch army attempted to resist the onslaught. Between 800 and 1400 residents of Rotterdam perished, and about 80% of the old city centre was totally destroyed. No less than 78,000 people became homeless. In the evening of that terrible day, many buildings were still ablaze, like the Plan C building seen here. The city burnt for days on end. What remained was a barren landscape, as can be seen here. The only building more or less still standing was the Laurenskerk.
France is crushed.
The French army is now in shambles. And yet it put up a better fight than was thought. In 1 month, 100,000 French soldiers die, the nation's greatest death toll. $1,850,000 soldiers are taken prisoner, along with 36,000 officers and 176 generals.
J'ai demandé à nos adversaires de mettre fin aux hostilités. J'ai pris cette décision dure au cœur d'un soldat parce que la situation militaire l'imposait.
Only Norway remains free, and Britain throws what troops they have left into defending Norway. However, the landings don't go well.
Morgan and his wingman arrive to find a horrifying scene. 2 British ships have been attacked.
Using the remote torpedoes, Russia basically sinks the fleet, and now we have the British-Norwegian Defence Force isolated and trapped in northern Norway and being pounded by artillery daily.
It was difficult to accept in those first daylight hours that the British landing was less than a month ago. It looked and felt as if it had been at war so much longer.
After fighting for a month, the British forces have to surrender. Now all of Europe has fallen under an Iron Curtain of Russia. No one saw this coming 6 months ago. All the pundits said there's no way Russia could militarily defeat NATO. They were wrong. So what's going to happen next? In 4 to 5 months, Russia has swept through Ukraine and all the way to the Channel. Where NATO has been able to stand and fight, NATO has basically been destroyed. Our weaponry was too complicated, our troops were too few, and we weren't able to resupply by sea. The Battle of the Atlantic was no battle, it was a turkey shoot. And we were the turkeys. It's easy to say the West had no fight when faced with death, but that's simply not true. We did fight, we fought hard, and now Europe has fallen. So what happens next? Like 1940, Britain now stands again isolated against Russia. Unlike 1940, they have America, Australia and Canada on their side, and Japan. But this isn't really going to be enough, because we still can't get food by ship into Britain. Some stuff gets through, but most of it is being sunk. The development of Russia's AI torpedo, the Ivanov, absolutely has turned to the battle and destroyed any hope of doing anything. Britain's a terrible, terrible place right now. There's basically no food, it's little more than an armed camp, and everybody's just waiting for the Russians to cross the Channel and finish them off. We were not ready at all for this. The next phase of the war is going to start soon. There is a lot of talk about suing for peace and trying to get peace right now, North Korea and China are trying to get peace. China's actually threatening to invade Taiwan if America doesn't sue for surrender to Russia, not to be occupied, but to basically re-establish the battle zones to stop the war. Food and gasoline in Canada are really short supply. Those of us who have supplies are really being careful about showing them, because there's a lot of stuff on TV right now about reporting hoarding of food and gasoline. The government's going after what supplies they can find. More on this next week as the invasion series continues. This is of course fiction. If you thought this was real, it's fiction. It's just a thought experiment. For those of you saying can't be done, wouldn't happen, blah de blah, I'm not interested. It's a scenario. War is unpredictable. The outcomes of battles are unpredictable. What I am doing is doing it without nuclear attack, because much like poison gas in World War II, I can't see Russia or America actually using nuclear weapons for battlefield advantage. It would cause absolute chaos. Now, it may change if Russia actually tries to invade American soil, but we'll find out what happens in the next few weeks of the invasion series. Prep sensibly. Enjoy life. Thanks for watching. Toodles. This video has been brought to you by A Tiny Puppy Production 2023.